Yes, well, obviously there were a lot of issues as a result of the previous round on the Gold Coast. One of them came to light in the late part of this week was a problem with the wiring loom on the Holden Racing Team car. It was found to differ with the schematic for what's lodged with the Touring Car Entrance Group as to what it should be. The team readily admitted that they were in breach. There was a wire. It's the second of the wire issues that we've had throughout the course of this season. There was an absence of intent. The stewards found a lack of advantage, and ultimately Todd Kelly was excluded from the second race on the Gold Coast and points taken away, and that reshuffled the minor placings in the championship. It was a very tough weekend for Rick Kelly. He had great car speed, as everybody knows, but boy, did he have a weekend in the wars. There was the Jason Bright incident in the fast chicane up at turn 7. Remember that one? It was spectacular. He was charged, that is Rick Kelly, with careless driving. He readily admitted, and I think it was a great thing for the young guy to do, that he was absolutely in breach, stating misjudgment, and the stewards found that he was well outside the requirements for good conduct on the racetrack, and ultimately he was nailed $5,000 and more championship points taken away from him as Marcus Ambrose leaves the line here to warm up. But of course there was more, because Marcus and Rick were involved in that post-race incident where Marcus leapt out of the car and stormed up to Rick and gave him a bit of a chat. Now, I know this will shock everybody, but both drivers in their statements, they used different words, and nobody was particularly surprised with that. The stewards determined that at the end of the day, it didn't matter what they actually said. They knew that Marcus was threatening Rick Kelly, and one way or another, that will not be tolerated in any way, shape or form in our business. And Marcus has been fined $10,000, but it has been suspended until the end of 2005. And if he's involved in a similar breach, then they'll snip the $10,000. And he already lost $10,000 for the previous incident with the brake test.
Dark clouds over Simmons Plains. This is how they'll line up. These are the positions from yesterday's race. Kelly and Stephen Richards, who did have pole yesterday but slipped down a little bit. It was really the amazing pit stop that catapulted Rick Kelly to the lead, and not so good pit stops from the guys who were ahead of him at the time. They didn't take their pit stops at the same time, not all of them anyway, as we file down through the order. A couple of big movers here. Paul Raddis made some gains from yesterday, finally getting that car right. He wasn't overly happy with it in earlier situations, or sessions I should say. Bernard also made some great gains too, 17 positions from his qualifying position. Stephen Johnson's had all kinds of trouble setting up his car after an engine change, a broken tail shaft. He doesn't know whether it's too soft or too stiff. They're still trying to sort that out, even as late as the warm-up. John Bowe, he's also been struggling to be happy with this car. They made 14 positions yesterday, up to 17th, which gives you an idea how poorly they were going in practice and qualifying. Jason Barguana, there's a story. They have changed the engine between the warm-up session and this race. That was a window of only about an hour. So a terrific bit of work there from the Orcon Racing team. Let's hope it all holds together. Jason, as Neil mentioned earlier, was complaining about lack of power. They thought there was a throttle sensor problem, but then they found out the engine was slowly dying. And Mark Scaife also had an engine change. That was overnight, and he was very quick. He topped the times in the warm-up. So watch for Scaife coming from the back of the grid in the second of these three races here this afternoon. In fact, I think it was just more than the engine they changed with Scaife's car, Neil. I think they gave it a complete go-over.
Oh, it's sort of had a 100,000k service, and it's only probably done 100k's in its life. They had quite a number of things to run through last night with that car, partially as a result of the contact with Russell Ingall, and also just making changes to improve the speed of the car. There were also some brake issues with that car yesterday. Mark was on the radio in consultation with Rob Starr, who's engineering the car, and he was telling him to just drive to the brake performance of the car. And we forget that this track is particularly hard on brakes. Huge stop in the braking approach to turn 4, and a huge stop at the end of the, we call it the back straight, it really isn't. Paul Morris, I understand, as the 5-second symbol goes up, will start from pit lane.
Set. A big day for Tasmania, a big day for V8 Supercar Racing, and we're away for the second of our three races. Blistering start from Marcus Ambrose. Off the line, he's beaten Rick Kelly, and not only that, Stephen Richards had a good go, and they are banging panels into that second corner, Kelly and Richards. Kelly finally breaks through. Lowndes is right up behind them. A little head shake there from Russell Ingall as they head up towards the hairpin, and there is that evidence of the banging that Rick and Stephen were involved in there. A little bit of smoke coming off the tyre bend panel. And let's see as they hold their breath through this hairpin where there was so much chaos yesterday. The pack manages to weave through.
I think they've got through cleanly. yesterday there was certainly some drama up there.
Ambrose is flying.
That was the voice of Rick Kelly, and he's been told to press on. He can sense that there's some smoke in the cabin. It was a good start from Craig Lowndes. It looked like he got away pretty well, but a ripper start for Marcus Ambrose, and that puts him in good shape. Standing lap time for Marcus was a 56.8. He's got a 1.8 second margin at the end of the first lap on cold tyres, and that's the kind of margin you like to see as a driver. And look now, as Rick Kelly gets heavily monstered by Stephen Richards, the run down to the braking area at the hairpin, and he's almost got position, but he's on the outside. Can he hang on here? And Lowndes is looking. Rick locks up on the inside, on the dirty side of the road, holds his spot.
Richo switches back to the inside, doesn't quite get the same drive out of the corner, or not enough to get past.
Okay, mate, just do your best. Just got to get through this lap.
Todd Kelly now having a crack at Craig Lowndes down this back straight.
They're waiting for the pit window to open to bring the Kmart car in.
And Kelly goes past Lowndes. That's Todd, of course. Garth Tander just behind them. Russell Ingall, who was second fastest in the warm-up. Very confident with his race pace today.
The Kmart team yesterday were sensational in the pit build. They really did a great job of servicing both their cars. And if they can maintain the same sort of form today that they had yesterday, and they work very hard at it at their factory in Clayton, Melbourne, then that will further enhance their position in the race for both cars. On board with Craig Lowndes to the hairpin, and have a look at how tight this corner is. First gear, huge amounts of lock required to get around there. Much more grip on the exit than there used to be. They don't have to use the little concrete pad up on the outside like they did in previous years.
The margin is now 2.7 seconds. Marcus's lap of 53.4 the second time around was nearly a second quicker than that of Rick Kelly.
Fastest lap of the race, Marcus Ambrose.
And that is an extraordinary start, and what you need to do with the smoke coming from Lowndes' car there, panel rubbing.
Well, it's just, oh, look at this, all nose to tail as everybody pulled up for the 40k line. And the rear bumper on Craig's car is folded in.
Well, I think Rick Kelly just made sure Stephen Richards was under the pit lane, or on the pit lane speed limit there.
He wouldn't have been worried too much about the other bloke.
Daryl Beattie, let's take a closer look at this stop.
Yes, Billy, watch Rick Kelly in and Russell's in. Russell Ingall keen for a good stop here. Kmart very strong. Rick Kelly out first. HRT, Todd Kelly out behind him. He's got damage to the left front bumper on that, and Ingall in behind Todd Kelly.
Well, there you go. The record continues.
That's quite a bit of damage on the front left of that car, so probably some biffo either in the run to the first turn or up at the hairpin, the left-hander.
53 flat for Marcus Ambrose on lap 3. He is just bolting away, and of course he has Bright and Murphy quite distant. In fact, they are together, coincidentally.
Debris flag being displayed there to the field up at turn 4. Craig is in. They'll have a look at the rear bumper on that car, and Marcus Ambrose will be in this lap. Otherwise, he'll find himself tangled with traffic on this lap. Lowndes in. Kylie.
Craig Lowndes has just come in ahead of Brad Jones. Scape's coming up also, so let's see how quick the boys go. Not a bad stop. Scape just getting in ahead of him. Lowndes now out. That looked like a pretty smooth stop. Jones is back behind him where they were as they entered.
So out on the circuit, Ambrose is leading the race, of course, not having made his stop. Garth Tander 6.5 seconds behind him. So there's Todd Kelly circulating there, and
once again, you know, the Kmart team have done a good job. They've vaulted Murphy up the order with a very efficient stop.
Just got between Kelly and Ingall there. So
nice clear run in the pit lane. Just keep it steady.
Here's Marcus. Let's see what sort of time they can do, where they can lift him.
He's chosen to be not tangled in all that traffic. He's making good speed at the front of the field.
It's Tander, Bernard, Bright, Mcconville, Winterbottom, Owen Kelly, Jason Richards, Craig Baird. Of course, they haven't made their stops yet.
Kmart did both their cars yesterday, Bill, when they were stationary in 5.1 seconds. These guys are only a second slower, but it made an enormous difference on the racetrack.
On this occasion, more than
look at this, look at this. Cold tyres for Marcus. He gasses up on the exit. Remember, he had a margin. He should come out in front, and he does. But how's that for pressure between top teams? You could not afford to blink and get it wrong at any corner of the car, or you pay dearly.
Well, this will be interesting. After a worrying start, Rick Kelly now finds himself, thanks to that pit stop, right behind Marcus Ambrose. So the horse has not been able to bolt, thanks to great work from the pit crew. Let's see what Rick can do. He's got a lap up on Marcus in terms of tyre heat. So Can he stay with him?
Fastest lap of the race so far, Todd Kelly, 52.9. The new lap record was set yesterday by Garth Tander of 52.8, eclipsing the mid-53 that Craig Lowndes had against his name from the last visit here back in the late 90s. And Russell posed a question to me before at the top of the show, challenging whether or not I had the facts to answer whether there'd been a 1-2. Well, it was done back in 93, and it didn't come from my fact book. It came from Bill the Facts Woods, who had that one, and that was Glenn Seaton and Alan Jones, 1-2 in the championship all those years ago for Peter Jackson and Ford.
They were dominant days for that team. Pretty hard to do that in these times, isn't it, Neil?
Look at this. We've got Russell really getting close to the back of Greg Murphy. First gear on the exit, second, third for Russell, fourth, fifth, building up to just under 260 kilometres an hour in sixth gear through this right-handed turn 5. Smoother than it once was. The resurfacing here, the surface a lot darker. You can see the scuffs on the road where the splitter makes contact under brakes when the cars are fully pitched forward. There's the surface change, much slippery here, and right here the cars tend to get into a big oversteer condition and slide in fourth gear. They bomb the rev limiter at 7,500 revs on the run to 1 and 2. Russell pretty aggressive across the curbing. Murphy's car does look a bit stronger today. Eric Pender said this morning that they found a little brake glitch with that car and they serviced that issue, and hopefully its brake performance, that is the 51 car of Murphy's, performing a little better. But Greg was pretty unhappy this morning. He's just not able to get a handle on the car. He can't get a direction to take it. Obviously, Rick and his engineering team are very satisfied with the performance of the 15 car, but Greg just hasn't been able to find comfort with it. Yeah, it's hard to know what's caused that for Paul Morris. There could be debris on the circuit.
3.2 plus 3.2 to Kelly.
Now, that was the call there from the pit crew to Marcus Ambrose. That's the break he's forged again on Rick Kelly, who's in all kinds of trouble here from his brother Todd. I mentioned Jason Bright as the race leader without having stopped. Obviously, he has to gamble, Jason. He has to stay in the championship battle here. He leads by 13.4 seconds from Craig Baird, yet to make a stop. But Marcus is the first of the cars to have stopped and is third on the track. Rick behind him, then Todd, then a gap to Greg Murphy. As Neil pointed out before the break, a great pit stop has thrown him into the mix, but of course Murph has to finish ahead of Marcus on points this weekend if he is to stay in the championship battle. That is highly unlikely. Murphy with 98 points so far as they stand, Marcus with 122, so that'll scrub him out. But Jason Bright is the only man trying to stay in touch and take this championship battle to the final round. Darryl.
Yes, Billy, the update on Paul Morris was when he started this race from pit lane, they changed the left rear shock only on that car, and that flat tyre must have happened well before turn 4, because when he went past here into 1 and 2, the splitter was on the ground earlier on.
Engel looks at Murphy there, Lowndes right behind them, waiting to pounce from 8th position. And from 7th through to 9th, those drivers are on 104 points, Engel, Lowndes and Tander. Don't forget, there's a very stern battle for second in this championship, with everybody but Jason Bright arguably conceding the title to Marcus Ambrose. Back in pit lane. And is it Bright? Yes, making his first stop.
Yeah, and it takes about 32 seconds to negotiate the lane plus your stationary time. So for simplicity, let's call it 40 seconds. And he had a 13-second margin in the lead. So he's going to come back out, buried in the field a little. Just exactly where, we'll wait for a moment for the computer to shake it out. But he's certainly going to be well buried down the order because the field's still quite closely bunched.
Just ahead of Bernard, I think, with Garth Tander just up ahead of him. And that would be in 8th position. 52.7 for Todd Kelly, new lap record. And improves by 1/10 the lap record held yesterday by Garth Tander. Bernard right behind Bright here. Of course, Bright on the colder tyres. Bernard elevating himself to 8th in the first race.
He was strong in the warm-up this morning in 8th, and he was very strong yesterday. He was pretty much man of the match with improved positions. He did a great job. And had a pretty fraught start to the weekend because I was standing just right here on the approach to turns 1, 2. And he got all crossed up and flew across the circuit at 90 degrees to the direction, nearly took the wall out on the inside. And but that's about the only big moment that he had thereafter on the weekend. He's been gradually improving the car and obviously coming to terms with it around here. He's not a big fan of the circuit, though.
No, he's one of the few guys who said they don't like it very much, but of course your performance contributes to that opinion, doesn't it, Neil?
3.7 seconds the margin now, Marcus Ambrose to Rick Kelly. And then this battle between the brothers in second and third. Not a lot in it at the moment.
Ambrose in very good shape here. The last time a driver closed the championship at this circuit was 1969, and it was, of course, the legendary Ian Pete Gagan. Didn't actually win that round from memory. Norm Beachy won the round, but Pete won the championship here. That was the last time anyone was able to do it.
Neil, I had a chat to Garth prior to this race, and he said to me that the car he felt was very, very strong in the warm-up. They made some changes to it from yesterday. He said they changed the rear springs under brakes, hard down into four where there's an opportunity to pass. He couldn't do it yesterday. The thing was dancing around in the rear, so he felt like that was going to be better for today.
The shot that we had up a moment ago was Matthew Nilsson, who's the engineer for Rick Kelly. A couple of young blokes there, one in the saddle and one on the headset. And they've proven to be a pretty potent combination. Rick's second at the moment. Great car speed yesterday. Excellent pit stop from that team. And here's the other Kmart car in battle. And I had a feeling that Russell might have had a bit on Murph there early on, but that really, as it's normalised, Bill, and the tyre temperatures have settled and everybody's found their rhythm. Definitely Greg's car is a little better today than it was yesterday. Paul Raddis is here in the number 88 car for 888. Gives Owen Kelly a little love bite twice at the hairpin.
Owen has had a few problems coming to terms with this circuit, obviously, and in his very brief stint with WPS, taking over from Alex Young. This is the first of 2 races he's contracted to, and even though he's had great success, I think he's won 7 races in the Konica Minolta series this year. This is a big step up, and he's a Tasmanian as well, who's had a little trouble getting settled into this team at this circuit, and has needed no help to turn around in earlier sessions, but he's gradually found his feet. Let's hope he can keep improving for the final round. A lot of drivers in pit lane believe that he should be in this series full time, so good luck to him.
Russell just a little bit closer now to the back of Murph. This battle here is 4th and 5th. Let's have a bit of a look at the gaps between them. There's Steve Ellery in those new and unfamiliar colours, the silver and blue. Brad Jones, he's up in 12th, and it looked pretty ugly for them earlier in the weekend. John Bauer had a gas pressure issue with the front right shock absorber on that car in qualifying, and obviously didn't make the shootout. He had a shocker in practice at qualifying. He made a lot of spots yesterday, and he's working his way forward. He's in 16th now, but gee, it's hard work when you're back there in a field of cars that are essentially doing much the same lap speed.
There's also a good battle going on between Mcconville and Bernard, which is a little further behind these guys. Lowndes in 6th at the moment. You're watching him there. Garth Tander just behind him.
He was involved yesterday in a bit of a moment with Greg Murphy up at the hairpin, and the two of them, it was skatey conditions up there, and Murph stayed high and Craig went underneath him, and they kind of rubbed, and off the other side of it, Greg picked up the throttle, and when they came out the other end, he spun the thing, and he was adding to the frustration. But he's definitely got a better car today, no question. And
FPR are lifting their game, aren't they? They're finally getting it together. There's been consistent performance from Craig in the last few rounds, and it's great to see. It's where we want to see them. He's actually unbeaten in 2 starts here, Craig, 1997 and 1999. He didn't compete actually, he did not compete in 1997 and 1999 because one was through a crash, and of course in 97 he was overseas pursuing a career in open wheel racing. But
these cars have improved a bit this weekend. When I first stood on the wall just here, just to the left of where Craig is now, early in the weekend, boy, it was a busy Craig Lowndes there. It's a fantastic spot to watch a V8 supercar down on that pit wall because they hook through there at a massive speed. The cars are sliding. You can see who's got a car that works and who's busy and who's not.
This is
talking about busy. Yeah. David Bernard, Cam Mcconville are busy chaps at the moment. Nose to tail in this battle for 8th and 9th. Jason Bright is 10th, just behind them there in the PWR entry.
Looking to get a piece of the action. Bright on 92 points. Marcus Ambrose on 126.
Cameron, in fact, both of them were absolutely maxed out under brakes there. Marcus Ambrose told me this morning some of the brake pressure values that they're seeing on their data going up into that hairpin, and they'd be probably the highest numbers we've seen all year. There's a little bit more grip available up there on that part of the track, and you know, I said early on, we all look Cam down the inside, that we've kind of forgotten how hard this place is on brakes because none of us have been here for a while, but it really rips into the brakes. contact again. Okay, Darryl, you there?
Yeah, mate, speaking of brakes, Mark Scaife ran off earlier down into 4 in the hairpin there. Just spoke to Jeff about it. He mentioned that it was brake fade. They're having problems with brakes still.
Yeah, they were having a drama with it yesterday and haven't really got to the bottom of that. And obviously there's some issues that teams are just not going to discuss with you, but they certainly seem to be more brake vulnerable than anybody else. Craig Baird out of the Team Kiwi entry, and Beardo's on the move next year to join David Bernard in the silver and black Falcon.
He's tried to turn it around, and he's running into a heap of traffic here, as you would expect. A very treacherous situation on the hairpin. He's rolled back, and Neil, there's quite a verge there since they resurfaced the track, and the right rear is almost floating. Here's how it happened.
Yeah, so Bridie makes contact with the back of David Bernard's car, and round goes David. And what we can't see from that angle above the car is actually quite a gutter down there on the inside. And then as David has gone back to try and give himself some space to turn the car left and rejoin, he's unweighted his rear wheels because the rear bumper's made contact with the earth embankment that rises there. And there's the gutter you can see, and he's now been removed from that spot, got a push out from the marshals, but it was sufficient to deploy the safety car.
Well, that brings the field up to Marcus Ambrose, but the more crucial point here, as we see they're getting ready to restart, I believe the safety car will peel off after.
I think there's a strong possibility that from the discussions that I half picked up from race control, that they may well be considering a drive-through penalty for Jason Bright. That has championship implications as well, so we need to monitor that carefully.
Well, he was already more than 26 points. He was already more than 26 points behind Marcus in this race, so he was Marcus was in a sweet position to close the championship anyway. But if Jason does incur a drive-through as we go green again, then it's definitely game over. All Marcus has to do is keep his nose clean, and when you're at the front of the pack, that's a lot easier to do.
Drivers have to be very careful that they're single file, not overlapping when they get to the control line at the restart. We've seen several people through the year have mismanaged that and then been forced. Paul Morris has still got some issues here and just pulling out of the way. They've mismanaged their restart, jumped ahead of somebody and then paid the price with the drive-through. Debris flag shows them, and they already know that there's a lot of dirt on the exit of the corner as a result of what happened to David.
Right, squeezes through Anthony Tratt there. Tratt and Morris are laps down, so they're giving everyone some racing room. Once again, look at the pace of Ambrose there. He's gone away.
The cold tyre restarts. He's got good pace. Their cars straight out of the truck looked pretty good, although Marcus did say that they've had to chase a little bit, but the adjustments, I understand, have been reasonably minute, but their cars have looked pretty stable here all weekend. It's a very unusual track build, and we've talked about this a couple of times over the course of the weekend, because you've got to make traction coming out of there, turn 2, and you've got to make traction coming out of the next one, turn 4, but you also have to deal with supporting the chassis and the fast left-hander at turn 7. And each of the cures to solve various problems affects the other.
Mate, okay, we've been informed, mate, that's all there is. There's absolutely no way to get around it.
And a problem therefore is a Garth Tander, or certainly one of the Valvoline cars, and that was Jason Bright on the radio. It is Garth who's got an issue.
Throttle position on any.
And car number 2, Mark Scaife off.
Just had a half spin to come straight across and got me.
Well, Mark just had his own commentary there.
Yep, thanks for that, Scaife.
Can't move it.
Oh, that is a lot worse than it looked a couple of moments ago.
Someone did now. I wonder, was it Mark that had the half spin, or somebody else had a half spin and came across and got him?
It sounded, yes.
So that looks like it's on the exit of the turn 4 hairpin. So Jason Bright has got the drive-through. Here he is. Garth Tander in the background in, and it sounds like they've got some sort of throttle position sensor issue or something. So through goes Jason. He's not happy about it. He was bluing on the radio.
And there goes the championship as well. Not that, as I said, he was on points, too distant from Ambrose anyway, but while he was in that race position, there was always hope, of course. You never know what will happen to Marcus.
I can hear Mark Scaife, and I don't know whether he's talking about either Paul Wheel or Simon Wills. It's a bit hard to pick up his radio transmission at the moment, but certainly he's describing another driver coming off the hairpin and having a lose.
Be careful getting out, mate. Make sure it's safe.
There's no yellow flag out, not full course that
No
is.
safety car. He's not really in a dangerous spot there. He's on the left-hand side of the road on the exit. But as he vacates the car, you don't need to step out for obvious reasons into the action.
Just further on that point, Neil, just wandering up and down pit lane today, I couldn't find one driver who was totally happy with the car because of that compromise situation you're talking about a minute ago. They're all either really happy with how they were going through the hairpin and trying to find ways of improving the handling of the car at the other end of the circuit, or vice versa. And in Garth Tander's case, he said the car was just beautiful through the hairpin, but at this end of the circuit right here, they were really struggling, and they were trying to find ways of making gains on the final corner without losing too much time on the hairpin. So it's all about compromise here at Simmons Plains, and some have balanced the equation better than others. He did last time round. Anyway, Todd's right behind him. Doesn't appear to have been any major damage done there. Greg Murphy next in the queue. Ingle has fought his way through to 5th place. Don't forget, the battle for 2nd place in the championship is red hot. Russell's quite firm about it, as he said earlier in the program. And there's Craig Lowndes finishing the season strongly for FPR before he goes to Triple Eight.
Darryl?
Yeah, Neil, I just spoke to the boys at HRT, and the story is that Paul Wheel had a spin, and somehow he and Mark have come together, and that was the damage that you see on Scafie's car. It was from Wheel having a spin.
Yeah, I knew it was either Wheel or Wills. I couldn't quite pick up the surname, but I knew there was somebody else involved. This onboard shot's interesting. We'll just focus on the speeds around here. They're quite a talking point. 3.5 diff in these cars. It's the middle of the diff ratios available, and this is heading up to turn 4. Now, they go back to first gear here. You might be curious to know that as Craig comes off the corner, 105 kilometres an hour as he grabs first to second, 135 as he goes second to third, 161 k's third to fourth, 198 k's fourth to fifth, then 240 k's fifth to sixth, and they just knock on the door at 260 k's at the end of the back straight. Now, everybody will be feeling brake temperature issues here by now, and what happens is that you still have reasonable pedal pressure, but the front brakes get so hot here at this stage of the race build that they're less efficient. They've got less bite. They just really don't have the retardation that the driver's looking for. But the rear brakes, which aren't getting that hot, maintain efficiency. And this is why you see so many people arriving, in particular at this hairpin, with the rear brakes locked and chirping into the corner. Let's have a listen to Lowndes at work.
Car in the pits. Little bit of HRT paintwork there on the left after that spin. Okay. And how casual was Craig Lowndes looking that long back straight section? Looks like he's driving down to the corner shop for a carton of milk.
Yeah, we're looking at him in a bit where all you have to do is pluck the gear lever. It's not so bad. When you get another 100 metres up the road, it
gets a bit tighter.
Up. And I can tell you,
especially with that grip change.
Turn 7 on Friday, when he was getting through the exit of turn 7, he didn't have his hand on his lap at that point. He had both hands on the wheel and both eyes glued to the windscreen. But they have improved the car significantly. It looks pretty good there by comparison. So we're coming down to the completion of this first race today, Sunday, race 2 in a series of 3 this weekend in Tasmania. All good news for Marcus Ambrose, 1.6 seconds the margin, 53.6 the last lap time. Rick Kelly second, Todd Kelly third, Greg Murphy fourth. He should be pretty happy with that because he was pretty down on the mouth earlier in the day about the performance of the car. Here are the margins: Murphy, then Ingle, then Lowndes. Mcconville, a good run in the Valvoline car. Bad day for his teammate Garth Tander.
I've got a feeling, Neil, Jason Bright has 64 points. Marcus has 126.
Yeah, I'm just doing all that.
Yes, we should do the maths here, because even if Marcus doesn't finish the third race, I think he might have it in the bag anyway. Because what is it on offer per race? It's
just
a third of 192.
And then I'll open my mouth, so just hang on a tick.
Neil will get to work on that. It's 60-something points anyway. but it is a pretty important number to crunch. Marcus Ambrose has taken race 2, a superb victory here. And he did say it himself, the laps go by very quickly here at Symmons Plains. Rick Kelly second, Todd Kelly third. This is a great battle for the actual round victory here between Rick and Marcus. They've gone 1-2 and swapped it around. So race 3 will be crucial to see who wins the round.
At the moment, Bill, Marcus with 2,044 points and Jason Bright's got 1,800. So 2,044 and 1,800 to Brighty, so it's a 244-point difference. There's 64 points on offer to win the next race. Brighty's buried down the field and Marcus will start from pole, and there's 192 points on offer at Eastern Creek for the winner. And Brighty finished 24th, so I mean, if he could get up and get to the sharp end of the next race, he would be a miracle worker, so it's looking pretty unlikely.
But it's not quite done yet. Marcus can't count his chickens until the end of race 3.
No, if you look at theoretical, you know, there's 256 points on offer for the next race and the next race meeting, and there's a 244-point margin between the two of them. Now, if that doesn't do your head in, nothing will.
No, that's quite right, David. It's Marcus needed another 12 points from that race to do the deal. He hasn't, but he looks good, doesn't he? And Rick and Todd finishing 2 and 3. Further down the order, Cameron Mcconville, after that good battle with Bernard midfield. Bernard, of course, was disposed of, and once he unleashed himself, Cameron moved up to 7th place. That's a really good gain. He started 23rd, finished 15th yesterday, and now he's moved up a whole bunch of places, another 8 spots. Jason Barkwana, look at that, after an engine change, he's 11th. That's terrific work from that team. Stephen Richards has slipped down the order though. They've had a few problems. John Bow has worked his way through a couple more spots after finishing 17th in race 1. And Owen Kelly, 22nd. So he's doing the right thing, and that is keeping the car on the road and learning as much as he can at the highest level. Celebrations for a race victory here, but not quite a championship victory yet.
Getting closer. He's got a couple of fingers on the trophy, but not quite done yet, but highly likely. And the best way to do it is not play all the computer games and figure out what may or may not happen. The best way to do it is to go out and win a motor race. And that's exactly what he's done.
Darryl.
Yes, Billy, we're just going to try and wait until he gets his stuff off here. But Marcus, fantastic, even after the restart there, and you could pull some pace on those guys.
Yeah, look, yeah, we struggled a little bit with the car yesterday. Turned around this morning like we always do, and just had a great car. So we're just so excited that we're close to another championship. Don't know what the score is, but you know, just bring it home.
Enjoy your third race.
Yeah, thank you.